Telephone interview with microwave specialist Barrie Trower. Does 5G and microwave radiation lead to disease of man and nature? The auction for the allocation of the new mobile radio frequencies for the fifth generation of mobile communications was completed in Germany with the beginning of June this year. 4 different mobile operators purchased radio frequencies in the 2 GHz and 3.6 GHz frequency ranges. Deutsche Telekom is promoting the introduction of 5G with words such as 5G network for our country and we want the most powerful digital infrastructure for Germany. Possible health effects of mobile communications radiation on humans, animals and plants are concealed. Today's mobile radiation radiates within a frequency range of 300 MHz to 3.6 GHz and therefore is shortwave, so that it is also called microwave radiation. British microwave expert Barrie Trower, a former Royal Navy specialist in the development of microwave weapons, is someone who has dealt intensively with the dangers of microwave technology. On March 11, 2019, Klagemauer TV conducted an interview with Mr. Trower on the subject of the destruction of humans, animals and nature by 5G radiation. He could only briefly deal with the question of how mobile radio radiation damages people's health and said, among other things, I quote, "Microwave weapons have become more sophisticated and more accurate in aiming for trouble, making people particularly ill in one area of their bodies." Due to the great interest of the viewers, KlaTV conducted another interview with this expert, in which he explains in more detail how microwave radiation damages humans. According to Mr. Trower, every organ and every cell in the body oscillates at different measurable frequencies. These oscillations are, if the person is healthy and at rest, completely coordinated with each other. Any kind of microwave radiation from the outside is now able to disturb these oscillations of the organs and thus cause various diseases. Barrie Trower also discusses which impact the planned 5G satellite network could have on Earth, which is to be built in low orbits around the Earth. According to his prognosis, man and nature will not be able to protect themselves from the radiation coming from space in the long run. And the planned tens of thousands of satellites are going to change the Earth's atmosphere through microwave radiation. Possible consequences are that the weather and whole seasons are going to change. Listen now to the second interview with microwave specialist Barrie Trower.
Mr. Barrie Trower, once again we can have a talk over the phone after our first interview on 11th of March this year. This interview was broadcast on our free internet channel KlaTV in English, translated into German, French, Russian and other languages, I think, Dutch, Bulgarian and so on. It was received by the public with much interest. Several spectators would like to know more details about the addressed topics. For this reason, I would like to come back in this interview to the effects of pulsed high-frequency electromagnetic radiation, to thresholds and intensities, and to transmitters in space or in higher layers of the atmosphere. First question, the pulse rates of high-frequency radiation. The mobile phones, Wi-Fi and the new 5G technology work with electromagnetic radiation that is not continuous but interrupted. With pulse rates of say 1 or 2 or 10 per second, or up to 100 or several hundreds, 1,000 or more pulses per second. We learned from you that different pulse rates provoke different specific perturbations of body or soul. The question now is, which pulse rates occur in mobile phone, Wi-Fi and 5G applications?
Yes, and I'm sorry that my answers are going to be slightly long, but I would sooner do another session with you rather than cut the answers short. The pulsing affecting the body actually goes back to 64 BC. A scientist called Ptolemy used radiation from heat and the sun to cause different neurological behaviors. Now, it was known and published going back into the 1950s, research in the 1950s, mostly by the United States, they mimicked the known pulse frequencies of the body to cause resonance and what they call entrainment and long-term potentiation. Now, what that is very simply, if you are a child and you're bouncing on a trampoline and a 30-stone man jumps on the trampoline, you have to bounce at his rate. You cannot bounce at yours. That is entrainment. That happens all over the body when you receive microwave or radiation pulses. And what that means is that once you are entrained, the pulse frequencies of your body, and you have many, many clocks in your body which time things. It's the circadian rhythm clocks. They time hormones and all sorts of things in your body to do with sleep and movement and everything. And this entrainment, when the 30-stone man jumps off the trampoline, you will keep bouncing at his rate until you can recover and do your rate. Now, it is known and published that children who use a cell phone for just 2 minutes, their brains are entrained for 2 hours afterwards. It's not a linear scale. It doesn't mean if you have 4 hours, or 4 minutes, it's 4 hours. But we know that after 2 minutes, their brains are not normal for 2 hours after a 2-minute call. It takes that long to go back to normal. Now, a lot of children who are, or people who are subjected to this radiation, their brains, in fact, will never, ever be normal because it takes too long for the long-term potentiation, in other words, the slowing down of the forced vibrations. It takes too long for that to happen before they are entrained again. Now, coming to the questions, a lot of industry, they don't actually know what their pulse frequencies are. And when it comes to 5G, the 5G frequencies, and there are lots of them mixed together, they are so mathematically complex that at the moment I don't know any mathematician or electrical engineer who has been able to decipher what the pulse frequencies will be. The consequence of this is that you will be subjected to pulse frequencies that we know can affect the body, but we don't know what is coming in, or a lot of them, we don't know how they're going to affect the body. It is a total unknown, but in any case, the industry keep them secret for insurance purposes and lawsuit purposes. The only information we have is that I published a list of around 30 pulse frequencies which I gathered from spies in the Cold War, which cause around 30 to 50 neurological and physiological disturbances. There is a list by one scientist which goes up to 600 pulses, and there is another which goes up to 750, where experiments have been done. But to answer the question is, unless you can measure that the pulses that are actually coming in, then we won't know how they're going to affect the body. And to measure them is really impossible because the ambient radiation is coming from about 20 or 30, even 50, if you're in a busy area, different sources. And they all pile on top of each other. And you have what's known as constructive interference.